a public bathroom transformed into a commemoration site. In one of the stalls here on September 14th, a man stabbed to death his former colleague, a Metro employee in her 20s. A steady stream of passers-by have been leaving behind flowers and messages.
What really made me angry was the way the government has been trying to insist this wasn't a femicide, but the actions of an individual. Also, that this wasn't a workplace death, but a misfortunate incident.
For the university student, the killing was a textbook case of femicide, the intentional murder of a woman because she is a woman. The victim had endured years of stalking. Her former colleague had flooded her phone with messages and tried to blackmail her into dating him using footage he had filmed of her in a public toilet. This voyeurism phenomenon is known as molka, a digital sex crime that has spread across the country.
I'm always a bit worried. When I see little holes in the wall, I still wonder, what if something's there? Young women I know feel the same. I even have a friend who only uses toilets she has double-checked.
Outside the station, the student joins a group of feminists. Weeks after the crime, activists continue to demand answers.
이 모든 것의 잘못은 피해자가 아니라
The feminist group accuses the state of turning a blind eye to gender-based violence, terminology that the conservative government in power refuses to use.
Right now, it might feel like we're alone and that nothing ever changes. I just wanted to say, let's not lose hope.
A 2021 law made stalking punishable with up to 3 years jail time, more if combined with other crimes. Since the legislation, the number of reported cases jumped 6-fold, but rights campaigners warn that it's still underreported. This 30-year-old, for example, never went to the police. A chance encounter with an old acquaintance seemed harmless at first, but gradually became disturbing. For 1 year, almost every day, he would either call or show up at her workplace, a bakery not unlike this one. He tried to persuade her to date him and let him walk her home.
I told him not to come, but he'd still show up at my workplace. He'd continue to call me. He just wouldn't take in anything I was saying, so I really wondered what more I could possibly do to convince him.
At times, her brother would help her close the shop. When he couldn't, her mother would follow the situation on CCTV cameras. The man only stopped this harassment 2 months ago. Like many victims, she doesn't think the police would protect her.
The scariest thing for me is, if he found out that I'd filed a complaint, then I'd have to deal with his reaction. You really have to think carefully before pressing charges. I'm also scared that he'll show up unannounced once again. After all, I still work where I work, and he knows where that is.
Under the current law, stalking cannot be punished without the victim's express consent. This makes them prone to additional pressure from their stalkers, and restraining orders are rare or at times ineffective. Jun Hee is the director of a women's shelter. She thinks a change in law isn't the priority. She accuses some of those working in the judicial system of minimizing the crime.
We could do better if the current laws are implemented properly. The police and the prosecutors should develop their awareness and sensitivity on the issue of stalking. Before in our country, people used to think that following someone around or showing obsessive behavior was just a way of demonstrating romantic interest. And that idea still exists today.
Only around 1% of reported cases end up in arrests. The government has now vowed tougher punishments for stalkers. But equality campaigners warn that dissuasion without education will do little to change mindsets.